Hegemony refers to the domination of one group over another, often justified by accepted standards and viewpoints. It originated in ancient Greece and was revived by the European socialist movement. It is a term commonly used in various fields, including gender studies, post-colonial theory, and international relations. Hegemony describes the domination position of a certain set of ideas, which prevent the spread or even articulation of other concepts. The United States has been accused of abusing its global hegemony by pursuing unilateralism, protectionism, and interference in other countries' affairs. In politics, the United States is charged with invading other nations' sovereignty and supporting puppet regimes. Regarding military power, the US is accused of destabilizing other countries and increasing its military presence worldwide. In economics, the United States is charged with engaging in trade protectionism and imposing unilateral sanctions. In technology, the US is accused of using its technological powers to conduct spying and cyber attacks. The statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China reflects rising tension and increased competition for global influence and power.
The United States is considered the most powerful nation in global politics, economy, and military affairs, and its dominance is due to its strong economy and formidable military, as well as an extensive international network of military bases and alliances. The country is frequently referred to as superpower and is accused by some nations and critics of pursuing its own objective at the expense of others. The topic of the United States' global dominance is a subject of debate and controversy, and various factors are cited as contributing to its position. First, we go to the economic factors. The economy is a complex system that involves production, consumption, and trade, and it determines how resources are distributed among players. A robust economy provides employment opportunities and improves people's quality of life. However, the United States is currently facing significant inflationary pressure with high rates of consumer price hikes and rapidly increasing interest rates. This challenging economic environment is attributed to factors such as supply chain disruptions, expenses related to the COVID-19 pandemic, demographic issues, and the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict's repercussions on energy and commodity prices. The inflation rate is at its highest in over 40 years, impacting the nation's economy and people's lives. Next, the second one is military factor. The military is an important part of a nation's security and defense infrastructure, protecting the nation's interests and sovereignty. The United States spends a substantial proportion of its GDP on defense, which has economic costs such as national debt and the reallocation of resources from the private sector to the public sector. If the government takes on more debt for military spending, lenders may demand higher interest rates, which could slow down economic activity and result in more taxes or decreased government spending. Next, we go through the politic factors. Politics is a process involving competing parties making claims to attract support for their agendas, involving the use of power and influence to attain goals that may differ based on perspective and interests of various persons or groups. The United States has a democratic system, powerful institutions, and leadership role globally, but there is decreasing public trust in practically every institution in the country, including the judiciary and media. This may weaken or undermine democratic norms, make it harder for the government to adopt laws and policies, and decrease trust from other nations. The last factor is technology factor. Technology is composed of two fundamental components, which is physical and informational. The United States prioritizes technological advancement in both its commercial and defense sectors, which contributes to economic growth and job creation. However, technological advancement can also lead to job displacement and unemployment, particularly for those who are already disadvantaged. The increasing reliance on computers to perform work can exacerbate this problem. Next, we go through BRICS. What is BRICS? BRICS is an acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, which are 5 emerging economies recognized as significant contributors to economic growth and development. They hold annual meetings, collaborate on various issues, and aim to establish themselves as economically stable nations by 2050. Together, they represent over 40% of the world's population and contribute over 25% of the world's total GDP, which is gross domestic product. Their rise has the potential to challenge the dominance of established powers, which is United States. Finally, the last main factors of the conflict is the global cooperation and alliances. The term global cooperations refers to the concerted effort made by nations, organizations, and individuals all over the world to address problems that are experienced collectively and work towards achieving shared objectives. This may involve working together in areas such as commerce, health, security, human rights, and economic growth.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is NAZRAN bin Harun and I'm gonna talk about related theory. The related theory of this question is realism. What is realism? Realism is the first historical writings produced by human Africanly cited as the source of realism, particularly Thucydides's account of the Peloponnesian War. Nonetheless, theories found that when viewed from the present, the cognitive processes and behaviors of the ancient and modern worlds share a great deal in common. Then, in support of the notion that there existed a timeless theory spanning all of non-human history, they drew on his writing as well as those of others. This theory was known as realism. In other perspective, the most common school of thinking in international relations is supposed to be realism. It is often referred as the power politics and real politics and involves states using their power against one another. The next one is about the realist perspective of hegemony. Robert Cohen introduced the concept of hegemony into international relations literature that is derived from the Greek word hegemonia, which means domination or leadership. Simply put, a hegemon is an actor who holds the most power, but there are two different kinds of power to distinguish, which is direct and indirect. Both forms of direct power and indirect power present facets of the hegemon's capacity to persuade individuals to do actions that will benefit the hegemon. The first could be explained in terms of dominant and the use of coercive power. The latter is concentrated on the soft power, which is influence and leadership of the hegemon. According to academic definition, hegemony is the predominance of one state over its peers, prevalence of one state over the others, or dominance of economic military capacities. Hegemonic power is then defined as an actor with sufficient capacity to construct international law, secure its observance, and has a desire to do so. This definition is not limited to the actor's capabilities, but also through its interests. The last part of this point is about principle of realism in the part of military, technology, economy, and political. According to military realism, top military leaders implement significant doctrinal changes when the old doctrine's conception of victory and mission priorities cannot credibly counter the most serious challenges. The balance of relative material capacities determines the level of danger. The example cases can be looked at Vietnam War. The US Army believed that counter-insurgency, which is coined, was a mistake and should be avoided following the Vietnam War. Thus, many people were surprised when the same army adopted counter-insurgency, which is coined doctrine, in response to previous military losses. While the loudest voices at the extreme have dominated the technology debate over the past few years, a new, more reasonable consensus has gradually emerged. This essay aims to explain some of the shared assumptions that underlie that consensus, which we have come to refer to as techno-realism. Techno-realism requires us to critically consider how tools and interface affect human development and daily life. For instance, in US and China tech war. The tech war began as a trade conflict but quickly turned into a competition supremacy in key fields including 5G, artificial intelligence, and semiconductors. Next, realists minimize the low politics of economic concern and emphasize the high politics of diplomacy and the use of force, not giving economic the weight it deserves. This conventional realist perspective appears to be at odds with the current situation, in which economic interdependence has a significant impact on international politics. The example cases that can be related is Cold War. The Marshall Plan was implemented by the United States as a crucial component of its grand strategy to contain the Soviet menace in the early years of Cold War, taking advantage of its enormous economic superiority. Lastly, is about political realism, usually referred to as political realism, is a perspective on world politics that emphasizes its adversion and conflictual aspects. Often, it is compared to idealism or liberalism, which tend to place an emphasis on collaboration. The example cases related to political that had happened before is in Civil War. After decades of simmering tension over slavery, state strife and westward expansion between northern and southern states, the American Civil War broke out in 1861.
Now I will talk about the analysis of the issue. The first one is about military. The United States military dominance has had a significant impact on global affairs since the end of World War II. The US has been the most powerful military force in the world, with a budget that far exceeds of any other country. This has allowed the US to project its power across the globe, using military force to shape international events and secure its interests. The United States has intervened military in numerous conflicts from the Korean War to the Gulf War and has used its military might to pressure other countries to comply with its foreign policy goals. Additionally, the United States has established a vast network of military bases and alliances around the world, which gives it a significant presence in many regions. This has helped to maintain the US hegemonic position and ensure that it remains the dominant power in international affairs. The second analysis will talk about technology. China has made impressive progress in catching up with world technology leaders, particularly in information and communication technology. However, as it approaches the current technological frontier, it faces challenges in adapting to the global governance system or building a new one that allows other countries to benefit from its advance. The emerging technologies of 5G and artificial intelligence require global governance mechanisms that assure technical standard, security, and privacy while fostering a cooperative environment. The ongoing techno-trade war between the US and China reflect the importance of this issue. China's Standard 2035 plan aims to establish the institutional framework for the next generation of ICT standards. The current institution and rules of governance may not provide a favorable environment for the technological advance and geopolitical dispute at the core of the techno-trade war. Furthermore, in terms of economic, China's rapid economic growth since 1978 has led to its emergence as a major global power, challenging the hegemonic position of the United States. China has surpassed the US in areas such as trade, foreign direct investment, and GDP. Many scholars believe that the United States is experiencing a decline in its hegemonic power, while China is becoming a potential hegemon. This shift in power dynamic may lead to a hegemony war between the United States and China, but such conflict typically occur when a declining hegemony fears a rising challenger overtaking for its power. Last but not least is politics. The United States hegemony in world politics has had a significant impact on the international system. It has allowed the United States to shape global political and economic outcomes in its favor and pursue its strategic interests, often at the expense of other nations. US hegemony has been categorized by a range of policies such as military intervention, trade agreement, and international alliance, which have sought to maintain US dominance and preserve the existing international order. However, this had also generated resistance from other nations, challenging the legitimacy and sustainability of United States hegemony in the long term.
So I want to explain about recommendation America's hegemony. Under military aspect, there are prioritized human rights. Prioritizing human rights is an important aspect of promoting stability and security in any society, including in the context of military hegemony. Prioritizing human rights can help to reduce the negative impact of military action on civilians. For example, respecting international law. Military action should comply with international human rights law, which require that all individuals, including enemy combatants, be treated with dignity and respect. This includes avoiding torture and other forms of ill treatment, ensuring due process for detainees, and respecting the rights of refugees and other vulnerable populations. Overall, prioritizing human rights can help reduce the negative impact of military action on civilians and promote greater stability and security in society. For the next point under recommendation America's hegemony, there is technology where prioritize ethical consideration. Prioritizing ethical consideration is an important aspect of technology hegemony. Ethical consideration can help ensure that technology is developed and used in a way that promotes the common good, respect human rights, and avoid harm to individuals and society as a whole. Following international standard and regulation is the one way to prioritize ethical consideration in the context of technology. Government and organizations should follow international standard and regulation related to technology development and use, including those related to human rights, data privacy, and environmental protection. Under economy, encourage sustainable development. Encouraging sustainable development is an important aspect of addressing economic hegemony. Sustainable development involves meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The recommendation for encouraging sustainable development is to adopt sustainable policy. Government and organizations should adopt policy that promote sustainable development, such as investing in renewable energy, reducing greenhouse gas emission, and promoting sustainable agriculture and forestry practices. Encouraging sustainable development can help promote economic growth by protecting the environment and ensuring that resources are used in the responsible manner. This can help ensure that economic growth benefits everyone rather than being dominated by a narrow set of interests. So, for the next point, where political is to promote democracy and human rights. Promote democracy and human rights as fundamental aspect of political system, which can help ensure that political power is distributed fairly and protect the right of individual and minority groups. For example, encourage free and fair election. Encourage free and fair election with impartial and independent electoral bodies to ensure that citizens have voice in the political process. Protect freedom of speech and expression, including the freedom of the press, to ensure that citizens can express their opinion and hold their government accountable. Promoting democracy and human rights is not only a moral imperative, but is also essential for promoting stability, prosperity, and peace.
In summary, it is a debatable topic whether America's global dominance is over or not. Although there are signs that its influence has been declining, the United States still remains a major player in the global economy and military. Other nations, such as China and Russia, are progressively strengthening their military capabilities, while the same nations will continue dominating economically. Some factors that have contributed to the decline in America's dominance include political polarization, economic challenges, and changing international dynamics. However, the future balance of power is hard to predict, and many factors could impact the trajectory of America's dominance in the future. Thank you. That's all from me.